And we're live. Hello, everyone. Just going to wait for some people to come in. My name is Trish Campbell, and I am going to be chatting with my good friend Nadine Searle for one of our lovely Love Me Chit Chats that we do. Always try to do these around the new moon. And here comes Nadine. Now, let me just let her in. Hi, Nadine.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
good, yeah.
That happened quick. Usually it's a while. Like
Oh,
I saw you right away. So I didn't really get to say much other than
oh,
that we were going to have a lovely chit chat and that we do these around the new moon. So while we're waiting for some people to join us, maybe I'll just start by talking a bit about that new moon. And it's a new
yeah,
moon in Taurus. Taurus is a fixed earth energy. Um, and it's the sign of love, or sorry, it's ruled by Venus, which is the planet of love and money and all things that nourish us. And Taurus is like very grounding, very structured. Some of us may resist that a little bit, self included, but it's always good for us. It's always, whenever we're in the sign, whenever we're in that sign, the season of a sign, we're in Taurus season, we're invited to tap into those energies of that sign and kind of live or lean into those characteristics. But also, I want to say, and we always like have these around the new moon and are talking about astrological energies, and some people that may resonate with, and some people may not believe that, or live by that, or like lean into those, and that's okay too. But also want to invite people to just also tune into your own intuition. And a lot of times what's going on internally is like exhibited externally, and then also we're kind of naturally aligned to those energies, like we might notice that. So that's kind of like a little invitation for us, for you, to lean into your intuition, instead of, when those little nudges come up, and we all get them, instead of like suppressing that or pushing that down or just blowing it off, kind of like explore that a little bit and let that be your guide, because this is our own internal guidance system that we have built in and that we've been, kind of disconnected from collectively over the years. So,
yeah.
or, through our lives.
Mm,
And yeah, so I just wanted to start off with that because, and just the feeling of this with this new moon, a fresh energy that is
mm,
entering in.
mm,
At least for me, I feel like we've like shifted a little bit. Last time we were talking about the messy middle and being in just like the heart of like some big grief and
yeah,
change and all of that, and to allow ourselves to be there. But I feel like we're passing and moving through that and
mm,
getting to the
mm.
other side. I don't know. How are you feeling about that since the last time we
Yeah,
spoke?
I feel similar because there is that, as we said, that last conversation we had, we were in that messy middle, we called it, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
And it was so real, that feeling, and I talked about the decisions I was having to make about my dog because he was ill
Right.
and that kind of thing. And I feel, sad as it is, he's gone now, that decision had to be made and I had to say goodbye. But with that comes that, like you said, that shift, that almost like, where I was in that feeling of like, I've got to make a decision and you just go round and round in circles, don't you, and everything. That has gone now. So
Yeah.
there is obviously there's sadness, grief, there's
Mm-hmm.
processing, there's all the adjustment that needs to be made. Um, and I'm going through that process. But there is, like you say, a shift for me personally. That's what I'm feeling. That is done. I know I did my best. I know that the love is still there. Um, and adjusting is difficult. I get quite upset because I remember what he was like when he was here. I've got my bit behind me. You can see
Yeah.
Caitlin there. There's normally two doggies there behind us. You know, there's one who's down on the floor by me. There's only one
Mm,
now. You know, so it's those little things. But I just feel that, you know, and especially we talked about this before with a dog, it's down to me. It's my decision. It's my It's an honour almost to go. This is how I loved him. You know, I did
ugh,
everything I could when he was alive, and letting him go. You know, so yeah, it's moving, isn't it?
mm,
It's really deep. So some people won't be able to relate because they don't feel the same maybe about pets, but
mm-hmm.
I really do. You know, and I know it's touching you too,
Yeah.
and I know you've been through your own series of grief, haven't you? You know, and again that, you know, going through it and just the process, you know, you shift all the time, don't you? You grow, you learn, you change. So I don't know, you know, how much you want to talk about what you've been personally going through, but it is that change, and we can feel it, can't we? So
I feel like, and I feel like there's a lot of people going through things right now, but for me personally, I can totally relate to everything you just
yeah.
shared because specifically with my own dog, I had to
Mm,
put him down recently
mm,
and it was unexpected. Um, he was young, he was a good
yeah.
dog, but
Mm,
had a bite history, and I had to make a decision for him not to harm anybody else. And it was a
yeah,
very, like you said, it was an honor to have him, to, you know, hold him in love, and also to have to make that hard decision. It was one of the hardest decisions. I don't
yeah,
think I've been through anything harder than that.
yeah.
Breakups and
Right.
all. And
Mm,
on top of that, I had just moved. So there
mm,
was a lot of change that was sitting on top of. And the grief that came with that was like tremendous, as you
yeah,
know, and
yeah,
them not being there anymore. And the loss that hole that is created through that loss. But also, I look at it too like space also being created because everything has its time and purpose.
yeah, yeah,
And, you know, he probably wasn't, it wasn't the best situation for him either to be in,
yeah,
um, to be rescued. I won't go down that
yeah,
path, but like to be, you know, in this situation, to be living in the anxiety that we were living in and
mm,
with the unpredictability of all of it. And, yeah, it's been a
mm,
hard time. And on top of that, I just recently lost my cousin, who is like a sister,
mm, mm,
you know, just such a bright light and young. Like she was only 53 and well, she was diagnosed with glioblastoma in January. So we knew that like eventually that's a terminal illness. But she left us so suddenly.
mm,
Like she
mm,
was doing well in treatment and she was here and then she wasn't. And
mm.
that on top of the other grief, on top of the change and all of like it
Yeah,
compounds. And I
layers,
truly
isn't
believe
it?
too that when we're going through these experiences, when we have this point of loss, it's not just that loss that we're feeling, it's the loss before that
Yeah,
whether allowed ourselves to process that grief or not, there's always going to be more. And so we're feeling not just the grief of the moment, but everything that's compounded over the years of our life,
yeah,
all the loss, big and small. And so
yeah, yeah,
it's an opportunity for us to, rather than try to resist those feelings of sadness and sorrow, to lean into them and allow ourselves to cry like
yeah,
we are on live
yeah, yeah,
Instagram.
yeah,
Um, and let
mm,
it come when it comes and let it flow because resistance is like keeping us stuck and it will not help us move forward.
yeah,
It's it's allowing ourselves to like be right where we're at and feel how we're feeling
yeah,
and let it go little bit by little bit. And then through that, that's why I feel like like you and I are both good at allowing ourselves to feel. We've had a lot of practice with that. And so
yeah,
I feel like that is like what's allowing a shift in energy to happen because where that space has been created, like I said, the loss is now new, fresh, blank slate, like clean,
Yeah.
new energy coming in for us to start something again and
Mm.
start a new chapter or what have you.
Yeah, it's I've just got to say I want to send you the biggest hugs because you've been through so much and I really feel for you. So thank you for sharing that with everybody because I know people will get so much from your truth
Yeah.
and your honesty with your feelings about that. So thank you for that.
And thank
But
you
I
for
just
sharing yours too, Nadine. I mean, this
it
is why
it
we're doing
seems
this.
it seems so tiny, and I know it's not
Oh,
to compare, but it
it's
seems so
not.
tiny. But it is. It's like all of the things you just said are so true. You know, it's never one thing that we're grieving. It always brings up memories. It always triggers something else from the past, another opportunity to explore, let go, feel, lean into it all, like you say, And I've learned so much from you over the years about how to do that. And because there's no secret, I never used to do it. I never used to be able to. I didn't know how. I didn't want to. I always wanted. I was chasing the happy.
Right.
I didn't want the sadness. I didn't want those feelings. And now I've got to say I embrace them, and part of that being able to do that is thanks to you and the way that you have led the way that you've supported me, your book, which is the reason we do these chit chats, so that I feel I can do that too. Scared as I am of doing it still, and I don't like feeling sad, obviously, who does, but I do realise the value of it. So I'm grateful to you
Mm,
and so many other people that support me too, but for actually giving me that opportunity. And I would say, we are doing these chit chats because it all started with me reading your book.
mm,
And I would encourage anybody to get your book and, have a look and you will resonate. What we're talking about now, these stories aren't in there because these are new stories, but the way that you describe your feelings, the way you process emotions, that is in there. And that's what I've learned from. And so other people will learn too. And again, what we're sharing now, it's coming at us from another place, another thing, but it is actually looking at your emotions, feeling them, um, and like you say, almost like creating a space and feeling that there is something new, maybe to look forward to. And that comes with, I've got to say, with me, it comes with a little bit of guilt.
mm-hmm.
That's a feeling, that's an emotion that's coming up. How can I find some good? How can I find some positivity out of something that's so sad? But we can, can't we? And
We
there is,
can.
changes going through these processes, and the bottom line is, whatever's going on, we're still here. We are still here, and we are here. I don't know if we like to say for a reason. I don't know how you want to look at it, but to be, yes, feel the sadness, do what we need to do, give ourselves space and time, but to learn and grow and move forward. That
Yeah.
that for me is what I've learned over the years. And I know that you do that all the time. And as I say, you're an inspiration to me. But I do feel you put up a post where you advertised that we were doing this. You put up a post, I think it was in the story that where you put it,
Mm-hmm.
and you used a song that really hit me. I've got to say, um, and it was a Fleetwood Mac song that with what's it called, Landslide, I
Yes.
think. And I normally I read your poems, but now I'm going to read someone else's poems because songs are poems, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to read a little bit because it really did make me feel that this is so. You picked the perfect song. How much you planned that, I don't know, but it's one of the lines is, I've been afraid of changing.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that in the past with lots of our chit chats, haven't we? So there's other episodes where we talked about change and fear. Um, and then it's questioning. There's a couple of lines where she's actually questioning, can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Which is very poetic, isn't it? Beautiful. Can I handle the seasons of my life? It's deep,
It's
isn't it?
deep.
I'm getting choked up just saying it.
It's
This is life. This
it's
is what we go through,
it
isn't it? So
is.
can we handle it? And no one gets away without going through some kind of,
No,
I'm going to say shit because it is, isn't
it
it?
is.
Can we handle it? And then there's a couple more lines that again just make you feel a bit more positive. Time makes you bolder. Children get older, as we
Yep.
all do. I'm getting older too. But I love that. Time makes you bolder because I think it does. We
Yeah.
can grow and we
It,
can feel stronger and bolder.
it
So yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I love that song and it
Mm,
resonates like back to like a time in my life where I was going through making another major decision And it always comes back and has like deeper meaning.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's so powerful. And I don't know why, like, I know why, because my intuition picked that song. And
Mm,
it's so fitting, and it is, it speaks to all the things that we can, like, that we go through, that we can grow through. And that sounds like
yeah.
cheeky or cliche or whatever, but like when we're allowing ourselves to be in that moment of grief and sadness and all of that, that is how we grow, because there's each time we go there, we find something else about ourselves. We learn something new about ourselves,
Mm,
and then we can take that and move forward and come at life from a different perspective,
yeah,
from a new
yeah,
perspective.
yeah.
So there's so much power in that, and I love that song. So thank you for sharing. I know
It
it
just
resonates with a lot of people
it
too.
did.
So,
It hit me.
and
I've heard that song so many times. I've loved it so much, but it hit me at a new place today when I heard
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And I think, oh my goodness, this is so
yeah,
powerful. From what we're talking about today and the way we're both feeling at the moment. So thank you so much for putting that out
yeah.
there and giving us a chance to share it, because songs again are so
And
evocative, aren't they? And
it's
so
so healing. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and is that
I
yeah,
want to unpack something that you said earlier about feeling guilty about, or feeling a sense of guilt around, like, this new space that's creative and it created and moving forward. And
yeah,
like, guilt has been a part of my story, and like a lot of us too, I think,
mm,
through our conditioning and all that. And I see it as a control mechanism by greater powers to make
mm,
us feel bad for being in our fullness of wholeness of being, like our
yeah,
full
yeah,
emotional spectrum, whichever end of or a part of that spectrum that we are feeling. And it's an invitation to look at it differently, that we can, instead of feeling guilty, and I'm not saying that that's not valid. What I'm saying is, to, like, an invitation to, like, you can simultaneously be in your grief and sadness and sorrow and missing what has been lost, and excited, hopeful, joyful, feeling a sense of peace about the future and
yeah,
the present moment and what's to
yeah,
come. I think you
mm,
both can exist on the same plane.
yes,
And
yes,
so I just want to, yeah, bring that in. And I think when we allow ourselves to, like, not feel bad for how we're feeling, and just instead come at ourselves with some compassion,
mm,
then that's what creates the opening for learning and the
mm,
wisdoms that are there for us in the pain.
yeah,
Um, I just thought of that Rumi quote, that the
mm,
cure for the pain is in the pain.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
is, and it's so true. And like you
yeah,
said, nobody is exempt from grief or from sadness or loss on this earthly plane that we live on, this human existence. We can try to escape it, but we will just, fail at that,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
will harm us rather than help us
mm,
to
mm,
not feel how we're feeling in the moment,
mm,
and for so many reasons. But and I'm just so, yeah, glad that we are talking about this out loud, because it's hard to talk about such personal pain.
yeah,
But I know
yeah,
we're not the only ones. Everyone
no,
has it. So
yeah,
hopefully somebody listening is, like, this is helpful for them too. And that's why we're doing this. That's why I wrote the book, why I shared what it's not everyone's story to experience a breakup and then go back and revisit their childhood wounds and all of that, but we all have some kind of, like, moment where we're like, okay, what I'm experiencing now, I don't want to experience again.
yeah,
So how can
yeah,
I prevent that? How can I change? How can I
yeah,
grow?
yeah.
And I feel like I need to go back and read my own book right now,
Do you
because
know,
there's
I,
so much grief that I'm moving through, and it's a
yeah,
lot. But at the
yeah,
same time, I'm excited about life. If it's taught me anything, especially with my cousin's passing, is that we do not know when our time is up.
yeah,
And to be afraid to do something is, I'm not going to let that hold me back. It's going to be hard to do uncomfortable things or things that are
mm,
scary at first. I always seem to make my way through that, and it's going to be okay. And I think that's an invitation for all of us to,
Mm.
you know, not hold ourselves back anymore from doing the things we want to
Yeah.
do and doing the things we love, and to grow through that experience.
Mm. I think you're so right, and the fact that you're saying that now, is really profound, because it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we lose someone, when someone dies too young, it's all too young, but that is particularly young, isn't it? It really makes you think, doesn't it? And then we think about our own mortality, and then we think about regrets and that kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
if you can take from that the fact that it makes you maybe a little bit bolder, a little bit braver, a little bit more determined
Yes.
to go, I'm going to live my life, in honor of the person that's lost their life, to actually go, I'm going to do that because I can. And to, yes, there might be feelings of guilt around that. There might be sort of, like you say, fear and all kinds of emotions that come up. But to do it anyway, that classic feel the fear and do it
Mm-hmm.
anyway. It is something that we can use, if you like, to make us more determined, to make us have a better life.
Right.
And maybe, there's a bit of me thinks maybe that's our duty. That is the lesson from it, to do that. And as I say, in honor of someone who can't do that, because it really hits you, doesn't it? When you think, oh my goodness, so much could, that person that isn't here anymore could have done so much, would have done so much, and they can't, but we can.
Right.
And it's a really, really valuable message, isn't it, to
Mm-hmm.
put out there for everyone, and hopefully they can, and people can understand that and feel that too, if they come to be faced with the same situation, because it probably will happen to most people.
Yeah.
And it is, and like you say, I've got to pick up on the fact that you say, "Oh, I need to read my book again." I'm going to say it like I've said it before. Maybe write another one.
Yeah. Well, I thought about that too. Yeah, I'm coming at this from a different perspective now, having been, I feel like I've been through a lot. And it's
Yeah,
like,
you
I
have.
was saying that
You have.
before I think I even went through all this loss, and I'm like, can I just like have a little
Mm,
break? Like,
no, no,
nope.
nope, no. It doesn't work like that, does it? But
Yeah.
you're finding, something, and I've said it to a few people after my dog going. I'm really trying hard to be grown up now, and doing
Yeah.
things in a better way. I've had dogs all my life. I've been through what I've been through with Benji recently. I've been through it
Hmm.
before. I've done it all in a different way. Every time it feels a bit different. Every time it is a bit different. And I feel a little bit like I've grown up a little bit, which sounds ridiculous, but I feel I have, doing it
Yeah.
differently.
It
Yeah,
doesn't sound
doing it differently.
ridiculous. It doesn't.
Exactly. This is what life does. It gives you those lessons, doesn't it? And I've got lots more learning to do, lots more experiences to come. But I do feel a little bit. I can recognise that,
Hmm.
and feel, that's it. But I feel a little bit proud. I'm really, I've in the past I've gone straight away and got another dog and that kind of thing, and I'm not criticising, no judgment, no blame. But for me, I'm just sitting with that pain and that sadness and loneliness rather than rushing to the next thing, giving myself that space. For
Right.
that, I feel very, gosh, I've actually evolved a bit, so I do feel that a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's amazing. I want to
yeah,
acknowledge that. Like
mm,
that feeling, I feel that too, but it's
mm,
like, let yourself like hover there for a while and
yeah,
be proud of
yeah,
yourself, because
mm,
there is something to be said. Like it does feel like, I love how you said you feel like a grown up, because like there is a sense of like, yeah, going through so much, and then you're like coming through it, like you really
mm,
faced it. You didn't
yeah,
hide from it. You didn't try to escape it.
yeah,
And
mm,
and then, now you're coming through it. Of course, there's going to still be moments of grief that come in waves, because it always
yeah,
does. Um,
yeah.
and it's always the little things that hit us. Like you said,
Oh,
there's not two dogs sitting behind
I
you or whatever.
know. Yeah.
And but there is, I feel that too, like it's almost like a sense of confidence, like a
Mm,
level of confidence that I didn't have before,
yeah.
because I've been through this. So it does make you stronger.
Yes.
Time makes you
Yes.
bolder.
Yeah.
Wisdom, what is it?
Yes.
Whatever
I
the
wrote it
words are.
down.
I should know them.
Time,
This is one of my
time.
karaoke
Yeah.
songs, by the way. So
Yes. Yes. It's a good one, isn't it? Time makes you bolder.
yeah.
And it does, doesn't it? I think
Yeah.
that's, again, I always say with poetry, with writing like that, you say something very concisely, don't you? And that is time makes you bolder, says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Um, and I feel something you said earlier that I'd just like to pick up on as well,
Sure.
and question a little bit, if you don't mind. When you said about, you don't want to experience these things again. Um, and you were talking about, the sadness and the grief
Yeah.
and the loss and everything. And I know, and I might be being a bit picky picking up on it, but just to elaborate on it a little bit, there's a bit, when you said it, there was a bit of me going, what I love, and again goes hand in hand with what we've just been saying, is that I'm not scared of those feelings
Yeah.
anymore. I was so scared of, like, I don't want to feel sad anymore. I don't want to go there because it's scary and I can't do it. But now I don't have that fear. So I will go like, I don't, I'm not going, I don't want to experience that again. I'm going, yeah, I can experience that again because I can do it. I can
Yeah.
handle it. I can get through it maybe, or I can feel it without losing the plot completely, which is how I used to feel.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that, and again, that boldness and that confidence, like you said, about, we can go. I'm almost going like, yeah, bring it on. I can handle this. I can do this. Whereas I used to have that big, big fear of that I can't bear anything sad because I can't cope. Now I know I can cope, but I still feel sad. I don't like it. I do want to, obviously, want to be happier. But the sadness isn't so bad, if you know what I mean. It's that kind of, I can do
Yeah.
it. I can
Yeah.
feel it. And actually there's great comfort in that, isn't there? That you can just be sad and it will pass, it will change, like you say, it comes in waves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I almost feel I sort of welcome the moments when I feel sad because I go, here we go, I'm getting another chance to process, I'm getting
Right.
another chance to feel. And for me personally, when I feel that sadness, it's normally from a little memory. And I go, oh, but that was a happy memory.
Mm-hmm.
It's making me sad, but it's a happy memory. So
Yeah.
it's good that we've got that, isn't it? So
It
do
is.
you feel the same that,
Yeah.
these happy things that can make you sad too?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. And also back on the like what you said about not being afraid to face these types of feelings again. Maybe I did
Mhm.
say I don't want to ever go through that again. I
Yeah,
don't know
I'm
if it,
picking your
I don't know if I
your
meant
words.
that.
Yeah,
Like I
right.
know that I'm not afraid to go through to move through grief,
Yeah,
to make choices, to open my heart, to get
yeah,
it broken again.
yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
I've been doing that over and over again, and that's why I'm like, can I
yeah,
just have a little bit of a break for a moment? But again, like I feel
yeah,
like in the last year I've lived 10. So there's been so much change
yeah,
and
yeah.
grief and loss and realizations and as soon as you said that I was like, oh, here we're going to be quoting all the things today, but there's this book, I think it's called The Book of Qualities, and someone very dear to me gave it to me, my future daughter-in-law, and I think it's by J. Ruth Gendler is the author, and it's about this, like it's about qualities of, like, so I can't remember, one of them was courage, like different qualities of human being. And I just remember this one line in there where she says her heart is open, she is not afraid of life, and that's what I like to live by. Like, I'm
Mm, mm,
not afraid to get my heart broken again.
mm.
So, in
Yeah,
whatever way, in the form of a dog, a
yeah, yeah,
relationship,
mm,
a friendship, a endeavor,
yeah,
a
yeah,
personal endeavor of some kind, that, whatever it might be,
yeah,
that's what, circling back to not being afraid to do the things that we're afraid of, or not letting
mm,
our fear stop us from doing the
yeah,
big things that we have dreamt for ourselves,
yeah,
which, by the way, that's our soul speaking. If it wasn't in our soul
mm,
speaking that, then
mm,
it wouldn't be
mm,
possible. I
mm,
believe that, so I have to tell myself that all the time, because I have a lot of things that I want to do and didn't. Like, I even announced that I was starting a new podcast. And then, it was supposed to happen in January. I moved, I lost my dog, we found out about my cousin,
mm,
like all these things and come in the way. And again, it gave me this sense of I want to do this, but what's holding me back now? I mean, also I'm only one person and I can only navigate so much at a time, but
Yes,
it's a,
yes.
a reminder to myself that there are things I want to do, like write another book and start,
Mm,
get this podcast going. And
yeah, yeah,
I mean, I'm grateful we have this because I see this as a podcast of sorts as well, and that we get to
yeah,
have these real conversations. And I'm doing
yeah,
it anyways.
yeah.
But it,
I
yeah.
I feel so grateful that we have these. We focus them around the new moon energy, so that gives us a
Hmm.
time, doesn't it? It's sort of like we'll do this. They're live as well, so they're done.
Yeah.
There's no procrastination. There's
Right.
no kind of, we don't script it. We don't really plan it.
Yeah.
We just speak. So I'm so grateful that we have developed a way of doing this that gets it done,
Hmm.
doesn't it? We're doing it. And maybe this is, again, it's a bit of a lesson to go, this is how we could do other things, isn't it? Just
And
edit.
exactly
Yeah.
right. And I
Mm,
thought about that too. I love the fact that we do this live, that there's no editing,
mm,
there's no
mm,
scripting.
mm,
Like we literally said last week, oh my God, it's the new moon
mm,
next week, and we're both going through all these different things, and but we still
mm.
want to have this conversation.
Yeah.
We just said we'll pick up where we left off last time
Mm,
and talk about what's going on. And
yeah.
there was no like structure to it. It's just always flows so naturally, which is
Mm,
beautiful. And
yeah.
that's what I want to do with the other podcasts too. It's like it's not going to
Mm,
be edited and like tried to be perfect, and because that's
yeah.
not who we
Yeah.
are.
No.
And I see a lot of that out there still, and not like coming from a
Yeah.
place of judgment or anything, but I think that what's real is what resonates with everybody. So the
Yeah.
fact
Yeah.
that we're authentic and real and talking
Yeah.
about things that people can relate to. So
Yeah.
um
And
and
we do know that, don't we? We know that because of the feedback we get. We get messages saying, "Oh, that was perfect. It's what I needed to hear at this point in time." So we do know that what we're saying in various forms, other people are feeling too. So we know it resonates. And there is a place, maybe, if we were a bit more polished and a bit more prepared, it would come out differently. But that's not happening. So
yeah,
this is what it is, and it seems to, yeah, seems it works for us anyway, doesn't it?
it
So
works
that's what
for
makes
us for sure.
it. Definitely does. But I do feel there's just there's so much, isn't there, in, like you say, sharing what we're going through in the moment, rather than, I
Hmm.
mean, I'm very much a person that, I maybe would hide a lot of, well, I definitely would hide a lot of things and talk about things if and when I was ready. I can still give myself that space and time to talk about things when I'm ready, but I'm more inclined to go, well, I don't have to be prepared. I don't have to know what I'm going to say, and that kind of thing, because what I'm saying, like you say, comes from the heart. It's
Hmm.
genuine. It's what we're talking about, feelings. And when I look back, I never would have been able to do that. So it's quite freeing, isn't it,
Hmm.
in a way? And self-healing, isn't it? I've said it so many times, by saying something out loud, sharing it with you, sharing it with other people.
Yeah.
Um, there's healing. There's so much healing in that, isn't there? So I'm grateful for you personally, but anyone else who wants to listen,
Hmm.
it does me good, does me so much good too, doesn't it? So
Yeah. And I think that and why we're talking about this too, like especially around the grief, is that a lot of times, like with, it doesn't matter what the source of the grief is, and we're kind of like, we might feel people around us wanting us to hurry up and move through it so we can get back to our normal self or whatever, but you know it will never be this, like we won't be, we're changed through
no,
our grief. And
we
it's
are.
a new normal, if you want to call it a normal. It's a new
Mm,
way of being. It's
it is.
which
It
I
is.
think is
Yeah.
is part, like what we can kind of look at in a positive perspective around the grief,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we touched on earlier, that
Mm,
we have this sense of newness through honoring what we've lost. And
yeah.
if we give ourselves that space to properly honor that, then it boosts or strengthens that sense of like, okay, now I'm going to move in a new direction. Now I'm a changed person. I'm not the same person I
Yeah.
was before. And we can
Mm,
take those lessons that we learned by sitting in that grief, because I do feel like I from personal experience, like allowing myself to feel, like you said, what helps you speak it out loud. What
Mm.
helps me is writing it. But
Yeah,
then, and I
yeah,
learned from you, then speak it out, because
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
still kind of like, if we're not facing it like in a tangible way, I feel like it's still swirling around in our body, and it's going to
mm,
find a place to land. So
yeah,
even if we're,
yeah.
writing it out, we're getting some of it out. But I mean, I feel like it's another level to then speak it out and read it out
It,
loud. And
it is, isn't
so
it?
I
Letting go.
encourage
Mm,
you,
mm,
whoever's listening, if you
mm,
want something to help you process what you're going through, whatever, like big or small, type sense of grief, to write about how you're feeling and then read
mm,
it out loud and
mm, mm.
let it out. And I feel like that will cause a shift inside of you, which
It
will
does.
then happen externally as well.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? And like you say, that creative process is so beneficial. People do it in lots of different ways,
Hmm.
writing, putting stuff out there, creating a work of art, whatever, painting,
Hmm.
drawing, whatever. There's lots of different ways, and it's worth experimenting with, isn't it?
Hmm.
Because we don't know how we're going to feel until we do something. So it is powerful. And I know we focus these conversations around the new moon energy, but the other side of that is the full moon energy, which is traditionally a time for releasing and letting go.
Yes.
And I do quite a lot of, I will write things down and I will burn them at the time of the full moon
Hmm.
and let them go to the moon. I have to say, for safety's sake, I have a place outside that I do that and it's all safe. And then I release things to the full moon because that's the energy that I have around that. And coincidentally, that's the time that I said goodbye to my
Yeah.
Benji. And it was very powerful for me to just really feel that, I can release. It was a few days after we was in the new moon, the full moon. And I really used that. I lent into that energy, like you say, to go, really release and letting go because he had gone,
Hmm.
and for me to really feel that. So it was there again, the universe is supporting me, helping me and everything. But there's power in the kinds of ritual, isn't there, if you like, if you want to
There
call it a ritual
is, and
or
or being intentional with it
yeah,
is another way to
yeah,
look at it. And
yeah,
And I think if we can incorporate more intention into
um,
whatever it is we're doing, I think that can only benefit us.
yeah,
And so, like, even the process of sort of, sifting through your grief and processing grief is intentional. You're
yeah,
intentionally sitting with it
mm,
rather than intentionally avoiding it and
yeah,
or trying
yeah,
to escape it, because you
mm,
can escape it temporarily,
yeah,
but then it's going
absolutely,
to come back
mm,
around, it's going to compound,
yeah,
and the next time you experience some sort of loss, it can be a small loss, it can feel
yeah,
like a mountain is
yeah,
on top
yeah,
of you because you haven't processed
yeah,
the previous grief,
yeah,
and
that
it's
is so,
compounding, it
and
always
you,
compounds.
it does, doesn't it? And you talk about that a lot in your book, don't you? And I really feel that that is so
Hmm.
valuable to know. And I would say that, I feel that, like you say, the memories come up, and when you go through a feeling, it triggers an old memory, an
Yeah.
old feeling, grief will pop up. I don't think that's ever going to go away.
Hmm.
But there's a bit of me that sort of doesn't want it to, because it's the memories, isn't it?
Yeah.
But how you feel and how you react to it can change. That's what I
Hmm.
feel. And I feel, as I say, I get tears of sadness with the memory, but I've also got happiness too. And like you said earlier, they can sit together. The happiness and the
They
sadness can sit together
can.
perfectly,
Yeah.
which is something I didn't realise. And you said a bit earlier about grief and how it changes you and everything, and you don't go back to normal. I remember when I was having some grief counselling after my mum died.
Hmm.
Um, I had this wonderful counsellor, and he drew me a little picture, and it's probably a classic actually. He did this little circle of grief, and then he said, that hole that you feel will never probably go away. And I was a bit like, that's not what I want to hear. But then he drew another circle around it and said, but you will grow around it, and you will find
Mm.
a place for that grief, and it will sit there in your heart or wherever it is. And that's sort of okay. He was telling me that was okay.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest, at the time, I wasn't getting it, but I really have learnt to understand that over
Hmm.
the years, and I really feel I get it now. I probably haven't explained it that well, but it's this whole idea of, like, I don't really want that grief to go. I'm still sad about my mum not being here. That will comes back over everything I go through. I'm still
Yeah.
feeling that sadness, but it's okay because that sadness is the love. They say, don't they? Grief is
Mm,
love.
mm,
It is that, and it's the memories, and I wouldn't not have that. I don't want to get rid of that grief. When this counsellor was drawing me this little circle, going, it will never go. I was going, oh, I want it to go. I want it to go.
right.
But actually, no, I don't want it to go. I want to hold that, and that is okay. So again, I've learnt,
Hmm.
over the years. I didn't understand it when he first said it to me, but I really do feel that now.
Hmm.
It is, isn't it? We're not going back to what we were before. Everything that happens in our life will change us,
Yeah.
um, but that it doesn't have to be a bad
No.
thing, does it? We're changing, we're getting, we're evolving.
Yeah. And like you said, like I love that you just shared that the grief like will always stay with us, and I believe that
Mm,
too.
mm,
But our relationship to that grief can change,
yeah,
and we change through
yeah,
that by
yeah.
allowing ourselves to be in it and sit with it
Mm, mm,
and then grow through that. Like I
yeah.
love how you said the circle and then another circle
Oh, it's
around that, because
perfect. Yeah.
it's, we're expanding through
Mm,
that process of grief, and
mm,
it will never leave us, but
mm,
we will, and we'll carry that, but our relationship with it changes as we allow ourselves to feel
yes.
the feelings that
Yeah.
arise when they arise. And like you
Mm,
said, the memories come and we
mm.
can still be sad 20 years later or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah. There's no
And
time
that's
limits.
okay. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. There's no time limit on
Yeah.
our grief.
Not at all. Not
And
at all.
I think, another reason why we're talking about this in this format,
Mm,
because we're conditioned to, again, like I said before, everyone wants us to be okay again and move
mm,
on and, get back to life and all
mm.
of that. But, this is a part of who we are now. And
Yeah.
every layer of that is a part of who we are, and
Mm,
where we're going to then like live our life through that lens. And I think it's so important to not rush ourselves through that process, because when we do, we miss things. We try to skip steps, and
yeah.
we're still wounded, and then we lash out at people disproportionately in the moments like we've talked about in
Mm,
other chit chats, like when we're not healing ourselves fully. We will never fully like heal it, but if we're not doing that work ongoing and allowing ourselves the space and the compassion to like be in that
mm.
grief whenever we're feeling it, then it's going to pop out, because eventually we're not going to be able to hold it anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it comes
and
out
it's
all
so
wrong, doesn't
important. I
it?
think that's where the growth is that we
Mm,
can then handle harder situations, harder choices, harder challenges in our life, because
mm.
we're sitting in our grief and moving through it in a
Yeah.
good and
Yeah.
healthy way.
Yeah. Yeah. I so agree with you. I've been a bit distracted now because I've just noticed your beautiful earrings.
Mhm.
And are they lotus flowers?
Yes, they are.
Are they? Because they traditionally grow
Out
out of the mud, don't
of
they?
the
Out of a
mud,
bit
no
of mud.
mud,
Yeah.
no lotus. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And I just love that. And I've just been, I didn't notice them before, but I'm looking at them now going, well, it's just perfect, isn't it? We were talking
yeah,
about the messy stuff before, we're
yep,
talking about that now. And out of that comes something
beautiful.
beautiful. And that is a metaphor, isn't it, for what we're talking about, really is. So I don't know if you put those on purpose, but I've
I
only
mean,
just noticed it.
I did,
They're
but I wasn't
perfect.
putting them on because they were lotuses. I just wanted to wear these earrings. And then I think
Yeah,
that like how that
perfect.
you pointed that out is so beautiful,
Perfect.
because
Yeah,
that is what we're talking, exactly what we're talking about,
yeah,
that
yeah,
the lotus coming from the mess and the mud and
yeah.
the transformation that grief allows for us.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and that transformation, I feel like that's the shift in energy we're talking about. It's the new
yeah.
confidence. It's the excitement part along with the sadness kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what a beautiful way to maybe
I think
end this little
bring it
chat for
bring it
now.
to a bit, yeah,
Yeah.
bring it to a bit of an end. I'd
Yeah.
like to see, for anyone that's listening to this or doing the replay, please put any comments or
Hmm.
questions in there because we do look afterwards, don't we? And also, to reach out to myself or Trish if you are struggling with anything, because we both support people,
We
don't we, through
do.
grief, through change. This is what we do in our work, isn't it? So please do reach out to either one of us or both of us together, because we can support. This is what we do.
Yes.
And we, we're sharing our experiences so that the people can understand that, we felt it too, we feel it too. But we are trained, we're both trained, aren't we, to
Yes.
help and support people. So
Exactly.
please do reach out if there's anything you want, even if it's just to talk about it, because we say the value in speaking is there. So
Yeah.
where can people find you, Trish, and your wonderful
Um,
business?
Either on Instagram here at This is Trish Campbell, or my website, thisistrishcampbell.com, and you can find out more information about the work I do and my Love Me books. And yeah, where can people get a hold
Yeah.
and get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way is to look. Actually, I always say my YouTube channel because
Hmm.
there's so much on there, and all my contact details are on there. And it's my business is called Calmer Self. So that is it, helping people be calm in the chaos and everything. So that's what I do. So YouTube or my website again, that's Calmer Self. So that's where people can find me. Or as I say, put a comment on this. The replay will be up very soon. When you put a comment here, we will see it. We will
Yes.
respond. So you will be heard.
Yeah. And thank you everyone who joined us live.
Thank
It's always
you.
good to share the energy with you as well. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.